to you.
And hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and this is kind of a part 2, I guess you could say, of our NFL recap so far this season. Now, it has been another week since my AFC video, but only a couple things have changed, only a couple. So, first off, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. And my opinions or whatnot might change with some Thanksgiving games, but I highly doubt that it will. So obviously we're going to start with the two worst divisions first, in the NFC East and the NFC South. Then we're going to go to the two best divisions in the NFC West and the NFC North. So make sure to stick around. To start off the video, we're going to be reviewing the NFC. So, obviously, in the number one position is the Dallas Cowgirls, one of the most hated teams in the NFL. And, yeah, Dak, he's been looking pretty good. Throws a little bit of interceptions, but Dak's been looking pretty good. He's been throwing a lot of passing yards, a lot of passing touchdowns, and no, he's not in the MVP race. Ezekiel Elliott has been underproducing for what he should be. Their defense is terrible. Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup and Randall Cobb too, honestly, are all looking very good. So, yeah, I think the Cowboys are going to waltz into the playoffs. But that's only because the rest of their divisions complete dookie. Speaking of dookie, that brings us to the Eagles, who are also underperforming a pretty good amount. I mean, you have Carson Wentz, you have a great D-line and linebacker core. Your secondary is pretty meh. Your wide receivers are good, and your tight ends are good. You have one of the best O-lines in the league. Now, I will give you the benefit of the doubt that you've been dealing with a lot of injuries this year, and that's just really unfortunate, but yeah, you've been dealing with a lot of injuries, so I do not blame you guys there, but I still think that you should be doing a bit better than you are, and luckily your rookie in Miles Sanders, or whatever his name is, he looks like he's going to go places. And now, we're talking about real dumpster fire teams. The New York Giants. Now, these guys are just barely ahead of the Redskins. Daniel Jones is honestly looking like a good QB. You know, back in the draft, everyone was like, what? Why did you draft Daniel Jones when Dwayne Haskins was still on the board? And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. See, I was able to watch Daniel Jones play a couple of bowl games, and I was like, hey, this kid's got an NFL arm. He is going to go places in the NFL, okay? And people didn't believe me. Now, he hasn't been like a legendary quarterback, but he's been doing good. If the Giants are able to get playmakers around him and an actual defense that exists and plays football, the Giants are going to be a decent team, maybe even a good team. And of course, how can you mention the Giants without mentioning Saquon Barkley? The dude's a beast. I don't know what else you can say. Like, he's top 3 running back in the NFL. The dude's just out of his mind. He hasn't had as good of a season this year as last year. He's also been dealing with an injury. The Giants are slightly worse than they were last year. So a lot of that you have to keep in mind, but if you look at the guy's skill, man, like, he has so much skill. Now we have the Washington Redskins. And oh boy, you guys wish you had Daniel Jones. The Washington Redskins quarterback woes seem to ever haunt them, and much like the Giants, who were going to play Eli Manning this entire year so that Eli Manning could teach Daniel Jones, had very similar problems with Case Keenum, except this time Case Keenum got injured. Alex Smith has a very good possibility of never playing football again. So now in comes Dwayne Haskins. And Dwayne Haskins, who everyone was like, oh, he should have gone so much higher, blah, 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 is now doing terrible. He's not even doing decent. He's doing pretty bad. I mean, I don't know, man. He's okay. He's not the worst, but he's doing pretty bad. And he was thrown into a bad situation. And the Redskins as a whole were thrown into a bad situation when they decided to start lacking an actual team. So, that's all nice and dandy and for the Redskins. But, yeah, it's going to be a couple of years before you make the playoffs. Now we have the NFC South. Basically, the Saints are looking pretty immortal at the moment, even though they did almost lose to the Panthers, and they did lose to the Falcons. But you also have to keep in mind, those divisional games, you can't really count them just because they're so hard to predict. Like, for real, the Redskins have a legitimate chance at beating the Cowboys just because it's a divisional game. Yeah, divisional games are extra competitive, and the other loss was to the Saints, which was basically just, to the Rams. They had a road loss to the Rams, which, you're on the road, and then Drew Brees got hurt. That just completely lowered the mood for the whole game for them. So, yeah, I don't blame the Saints for losing either of the games that they did. They're looking like one of the best teams in the NFC. Now, you have the Panthers, who are a very interesting specimen, to say the least. They have a 5-6 record, which there are so many good teams this year, is not going to cut it. Even if they went out, I think, actually. Well, 10-6, but I think they're going to drop a couple more. Panthers aren't making the playoffs. The Buccaneers, Jameis Winston is somehow top 3 in yards. Or, no, it's touchdowns. Jameis Winston is top 3 in passing touchdowns. Who let this man get into the top 10 of anything? Jameis Winston is trash. He throws like 3 interceptions a game. I'm sorry, Buccaneers fans. Bruce Arians wasn't enough. You need actual players. Now for the Falcons, oh man. We were at the beginning of the year, we were like, oh man, the Panthers, the Saints, the Falcons, all those teams have so much talent. They're just gonna blow the world out, and they absolutely did. They just blew our minds with how terrible all of these 3 teams have been who aren't the Saints. The Panthers haven't been that bad. I'll admit it. The Panthers, they've been decent. But, oh man, the Falcons, they've been doing terrible. They just lost to the Buccaneers. The Falcons have, I'm trying to think of one position right now where I'm like, oh, they're really, really bad in that position. And I just can't think of it. Because the Falcons are such a good team. They have so many skill players in key positions. And they can't do anything. In fact, I think they've won more games without Matt Ryan. No, they only won 1 game without Matt Ryan. But, yeah, Matt Ryan's underperforming. He usually, leads the NFL. I don't know what to tell you, Falcons. There shouldn't be any problem on paper. I don't know what the problem is. But now we go to the NFC North, where things are getting a little bit spicy, I'm not going to lie, where the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings are tied for first place. But since the Packers beat the Vikings, the Packers are currently ahead of the Vikings. Now, the Packers had a loss to the Chargers and a loss to the Eagles, who are both trash and were trap games. And then their third loss was to the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm just going to say that if Aaron Rodgers hadn't fumbled the ball, that he didn't fumble, if Davante Adams hadn't gotten the unsportsmanlike conduct call, that wasn't unsportsmanlike conduct, and if Jimmy Graham wouldn't have dropped the pass that he caught, that game would have looked a wee bit different. Oh yeah, and let me not forget the Kevin King illegal touching call. Yeah, I've seen much worse illegal touching than that in my household. I'm just... okay, I'm gonna cut that out. But... that game will have looked a lot different, is all I'm gonna say. And now the Minnesota Vikings, who at the beginning of the year, everyone was like, oh, look at the Vikings, they had such high hopes. And then all of a sudden, they started playing trash teams. They've been able to beat every single one of those trash teams except the Bears. And yeah, life is good because they're beating a bunch of trash teams, and now all of a sudden, they're one of the best teams in the NFL because of it. Which brings us to the Bears, who I actually have to thank you, Bears. I might as well come out and admit it. It's pretty obvious. I'm a Packers fan. If you've been watching the channel, you know I'm a Packers fan. And the Bears have been so disappointing this year. Talk about just an absolute slack. They go from 12-4 to like the worst offense in the NFL I've known for a long time. The head coach has no confidence in his offense whatsoever, or his kicker for that matter, or even his special teams. But obviously everyone has confidence in that defense. That defense is the reason the Bears have 5 wins. They have great receivers, a good tight end, an underperforming quarterback, but at least he can complete 5 passes a game. Then you look at their backfields, where they have David Montgomery, who's like a tank. It takes 5 guys to bring that dude down. Then you got your slasher and Tariq Cohen, who just speedily cuts and just jukes and whatever other madness he does. But man, the Bears, their coaching have no confidence in them. The rest of the NFL doesn't have confidence in them. It is a dark time in Chicago. And as for the Lions, at least you're not the 2008 Lions that went 0-16. Oh yeah, and T.J. Hawkinson is the only good player on your team. Matthew Stafford is okay, I guess. So now we have the NFC West, and we are starting off with the San Francisco 49ers, who are 10-1, and they have also played a bunch of trash teams. The only teams that they have played that aren't trash, the Seahawks and the Packers. They lost to the Seahawks, beat the Packers. But yeah, the percentage of the teams they've beat is, I think it's like 38 or 39%. That's the win percentage. So they haven't played like blow your mind out good teams, and the Cardinals made them look very beatable, and the Seahawks made them look even more beatable. Niners, you're a playoff team. You're not a Super Bowl team. You still need to prove it. I will not say you're a Super Bowl team until you win the Super Bowl. You got a lot of talent. That D-line is legit. Your team is legit. But you've looked beatable. And that's all I'm going to say. Now, if we're talking about a Super Bowl team, the Seattle Seahawks. As a Packers fan, I absolutely despise the Seattle Seahawks. But I got to give it to you. Russell Wilson's playing MVP-like. Chris Carson is doing very good. Even your other running back, what's his name, Rashad Penny, is looking good. That D-line's looking monstrous. You got Bobby Wags covering your middle. You got Bradley McDougald. You've just got so many playmakers on your defense, so many playmakers on your offense, like Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. That dude's on steroids. and your offensive line's been performing very well. You guys are a Super Bowl team, hands down. Bold prediction, the Seattle Seahawks are going to be in the Super Bowl. Now we come down to the Rams, who they're another big disappointment. They went to the Super Bowl last year, and as you can see, that record is not a Super Bowl record. They have a lot of skilled players, like Todd Gurley, who has been underperforming, Jared Goff, who's not looking like a skill player anymore. That's wasting money. They now have Jalen Ramsey, who was a very surprising pickup, but nevertheless a very good pickup. The dude kind of caused trouble in Jacksonville, but that's only because he didn't want to be there. He seems like he wants to be in LA, and I don't think they're going to have to worry about him causing trouble, like locker room or, anything like that issues for a while. So Aaron Donald, he keeps getting double teamed. He hasn't been able to do much. So, yeah. And then the Cardinals, Kyler Murray was a good pick, but you're not going to win games if you don't give him an offensive line. Same goes for Kenyon Drake or David Johnson. Neither one of them are doing anything if you're not going to give them an offensive line. They had another draft guy, Hakeem Butler. He fractured his hand. The dude's really tall. He's menacing, but he fractured his hand, so that was that. They still got Larry Fitz, who, honestly, no one dislikes him. He's a legend, one of the best receivers there ever was. The dude's still playing, and I have major respect to him for that. But I don't respect the Cardinals, and you're not even close to a playoff team. But anyway, guys, I would like to thank you all so much for watching. Again, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving game. If you guys like this NFL series, please do smash the like button so that I know that you guys are enjoying the series, and I'll make more in the future. And I'll catch you all on the next wave.